your regularly scheduled program for this special report.
Are you ready? Hey, think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down. Degenerate into something fool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a brace, boy. Yeah, that's a brace, little man. Break it down. Degeneration up. Degeneration. Think you can tell me what to do? Know who you're talking to? Well, you better get used to the way the ball bounces. I see what you got, it measures in ounces. But that's a brace, boy. Yeah, that's a brace, little man. Break it down. Degeneration up. Degeneration. Think you're a big man? Treat you like you're a little man. Yeah. Break it down. Yo, tell me what it's like to be half a man. It must break your heart to see what I am, but that's a brace, boy. Yeah, that's a brace, little man. Break it down. Degeneration up.
Hey everybody, this is Chris from Comic Book Spotlight. Welcome to another edition, but this is the weekend edition of Comic Book Spotlight. And let me bring in my co-hosts, the one, the only, Den of Geek.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Besides the fact that tomorrow's Monday.
How did you like that new opening to our...
Loved it. Very cool.
Very, very cool. And I just want to let everybody know that we do have a new store where you can get all your t-shirts and everything at Stick Your Mole store. And I will show you the captioning for that right there. And I'll be scrolling all throughout the show. But we need to bring in our special guest. He is writer, creator of vibrant indie comic. Give it up for the one, the only, Emeka.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yep.
You guys see me all
Just
right?
fine. How you doing to the fine day?
Tired. I actually just came back from a little small short vacation with the wife and had to work nonstop.
Oh my God.
So I'm dreading having to go back to it tomorrow.
I understand, and we love that you came on Comic Book Spotlight. Me and Dan love that indie comic book that you put out, Vibrant. Very, very, very well. Also, let's see. How is the campaign doing so far?
Oh, we're done. Yeah, we funded. We did pretty well. We actually were able to reach the first stretch goal for the campaign. And I'm really excited. I'm actually right now in the middle of completing the card art and write-ups for all of that to set up there. And then I think, if I heard correctly, working with Fred, that we are getting ready to print soon.
Awesome. So when the printing starts getting ready to roll, Is there any other specials that are going to be happening after the printing's finally finished?
Um,
It's okay.
sorry about that. Um, I'm not quite sure. I think once this is done, it's done, and then it's on to the on to the next. Jeez, on to the next issue, which I actually, funny enough, just started the review process
Oh,
or the editing process. So
nice.
for the script. So once that's done, then we'll move forward from there.
Um, have you set up basically comic book shops, going to Comic Cons, anything in the future?
Mm, Well, actually, yes. There's this local Comic Con. I think Ohana Comic Con is who sets it up, and there's one that's maybe a 30-minute drive away. So I plan on doing that in September. I want to kind of start small and then work my way up to bigger cons. There is a bigger con that is sooner than that, but the tables are pretty pricey, and I would have to get quite a bit of merch, like the standing posters and spin racks and everything else in between. Um, so I think I'm going to aim for September to do
That
that.
sounds very good. The reason I ask is after the campaign's done, printed, it's usually a whole lot of more podcasts,
Yeah, yeah.
going and promoting more um, actual channels like TV,
Mhm.
I
Radio.
um,
wish.
I know a few radio.
radio. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, radio. Radio is a great avenue, and I'm sure someone like yourself, they're going to say, "Yeah, please come on to the radio station and promote that comic book of yours."
I mean, I would not be opposed to it if it happened, but I'm not I'm not sure how certain
I
that will
understand.
be.
A new writer and creator,
Yeah,
anything
exactly. Yeah.
that you want to ask me for now?
Uh,
If I anything I want to
Oh
ask.
no, Den the Geek.
um,
Oh,
not
sorry.
really. I mean, congrats on getting it funded and everything. Um, I know that Kickstarter can be a very fickle platform at times.
Mhm. Yeah.
I've seen projects that have gone completely nuts, and others that I was like, oh well, that would be a great idea, and they just don't get funded. And I guess the big part is getting the word out.
Oh yes. Yeah. That was probably the
Yeah.
toughest part. Yeah.
I do like it as a platform for indie comic projects,
Mhm.
because I go on there and I'm like, oh, this sounds like an interesting book. I'd be interested in reading that. And
Yeah.
then, you know, a few months later, my mailman's like, why are you getting all these packages?
Mhm.
Yeah. That was just me recently with a bunch of Kickstarters I backed, and it was just one
Yeah,
after the
yeah.
other.
And sometimes you even forget that they're coming. It's like, oh wow, I had no idea. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I have something to sit
Yeah.
down and read and enjoy. Um,
Exactly.
so it's I think it's a great way to kind of take the comic industry back from just the larger corporations, that
Yeah.
they look at it and they're like, oh well, this isn't going to sell that well. Well, the crowdfunding way says otherwise.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And even though indie comics are a little bit more expensive than regular comics, I think they're better quality than mainstream comic books where they're going to cut some corners. They're not going to give you the very nice glossy pages or map pages that you
Yeah.
would get with the indie comics. They're not going to give you the posters, the metal, you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
things,
True.
bookmarkers, extra promotion, digital copies. They just give you, here you go. Here's your regular physical copy. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other big thing for me is, a lot of times the stories feel very cookie cutter. It feels like, okay, we've done this story before. Let's do something similar to it again. And I mean, well, if I wanted to read that, I'd read the original run.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I like indies, is because the stories always have twists and turns that I never even expected. And I've been reading indie comics since the 90s. You know, so that's kind of the biggest thing for me, is I want a good story. I want some personality to the story, instead of just, oh, it's another Spider-Man story, or oh, it's another X-Men story.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the indies, because a lot of times it delves into things that are personal to the creators.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I think we guys should go to viewing his Kickstarter just to get people a little thing on it. And
Sure,
you know what? I'm getting better at this. Okay. I have to say before, then I had it all set up ahead of time before coming on. So
Always
I'm
a good
doing
idea.
I'm always doing a lot better
Yeah.
at it.
Well, that's part of the learning experience. Trust me.
But here it is, Vibrant #1, Awakening in 32-page story of power and family. And look at it, funded at 2,567, 89 backers. So if anybody says they don't support indie comic books, facts right there. Facts. You can't dispute that.
No,
Yeah.
Once
I
again,
think it's like indie games now. A lot more people are willing to go the indie route, both for games, movies, and comics and music, because of that personal connection to the stories. And,
Yeah.
you know, okay, especially with the video game side of it, you may not have the absolute best graphics or anything, but I want that story. I want to be told that story that somebody's spent like months creating, or years,
Yeah.
that they put their heart and soul into.
yeah. Here we are again with Wiseacre Comic Publishing Company. It says, "Welcome to Wiseacre Comics. We're both storytelling, art, and revered. We focus on telling quality stories while focusing on original content and creators of Magnus." So,
Oh yeah, that's the those are the pages.
yeah. And I lost it. Now I got to go back to stop sharing and go back to viewing again.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But Wiseacre's had some pretty cool projects that I've been looking into, and I'm really excited for. It's been amazing to see the rise of indie comics through Kickstarter and other funding platforms, because more and more people are like, you know what? Yeah, I'm willing to spend more money to get the whole package to really make a collection out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I apologize. We're going to get right back to it real soon here.
Yeah.
No problem.
Trust me, I work in tech support. This is my day every day.
There we go.
I mean, honestly, at this point, it's not really personally worth sharing. I mean, well, I guess if there are any late backers that would like to support.
No. If people want to late back it, I think that's a great thing, and that's what we're here at Comic Book Spotlight. We want to make everybody happy, and that's why I'm going over it a little bit. Stretch goals. You didn't get to the 3K stretch goal, unfortunately.
We did not. No, unfortunately, we did get to that. The first one though,
Metal bookmark.
So
but you know what?
I'm excited.
It's still great that you got to that first unlock, because a lot of people on Kickstarter don't even get to their first unlock, and so
a lot of people don't even get their project funded.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was pretty close. Like we were, I think it was maybe we were kissing the 2300,
Yeah.
and then once it was like down to the last few hours, it started really getting there, and we got to that 2500 mark, and I was surprised.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do you think Comic Book Spotlight helped promote your comic book? Do you think we did a good job? Do you, I hear from what Frederick has told me, but I want to hear from the creator.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw a few pledgers after the or pledges after our live. I thought it was nice, and definitely helped, bring attention to both my comic and not just that, but also the personal story that I
Mhm.
have to bring. I was on the Facebook group that you have going, and I was very it was very touched by some of the comments that were posted, and so I was just happy to be able to show people that this is something that means a lot
Yeah.
to me.
And the people on my Cutthroat Comics group, there were some really great people. And if it wasn't for people like Den, James Lucas, Stacy, who is the producer on when I'm doing thumbnails, I kind of just pass it over to her and tell her what to think. Den handles the music and everything. Um, I pretty
Mhm.
much just, I don't think I sit back, but I kind of just orchestrate everything. But
You do the research.
yeah,
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
vital.
Yeah. Um, I'm lucky enough that my local comic shop um, keeps a couple comic books near the cash register for impulse buys, and they're always indie comics.
That's great.
And I've probably picked up more indie comics there. Just like, oh, I haven't even heard of this title. Cool. And
That's
bring them
awesome.
home with my haul, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's sit down and read, and wow, this is really good.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think personally, I think more comic shops should do that. Unfortunately, not many near me
Yeah.
do that. But actually, while we were up, my wife and I on vacation, we ran into one, and we had visited this one before in the past, but it had been years, like pre-COVID. Um,
Hmm.
mhm,
and we were walking around, and I think I was looking for like Green Arrow or something. Um, and she was like, "Hey, there's a little stand here with local indie creators." And I was like, "Whoa, this is actually really cool." And I'm thinking, oh, because some of the comic book stores that I've reached out to that locally were like, "Oh, well, we don't do it unless you have an ISBN or USPC,
Hmm.
or unless you have a
mhm.
distributor."
Hmm.
And it didn't look like any of these comics had any of that. And so I was actually pretty impressed that this comic book shop gave these guys a shot, and let them, set up in their store.
Yeah, because getting especially getting it through distribution channels is incredibly hard
Mhm.
nowadays. Like they require, oh well, we need X number of copies, guaranteed
Yeah.
sales,
Yeah, the
and
guarantees.
so I love these indies. It certainly didn't hurt that um, the manager of the comic book shop, he's an artist, and he created his own indie comic on
Oh,
Kickstarter.
okay. Awesome.
And he had his copies right next to the cash register as
Mhm.
well. And it started off as a web comic
Wow.
Yeah.
and grew from there. And I'm like, oh, Nick, this is awesome. I'm gonna check this out. And yeah, so it's one of those things where I think more shops, especially the mom and pop
Yeah.
shops, should do it
Yes.
because you are an indie comic book store. You're not related with huge companies.
Mhm.
So, helping push the indies should help you as a person.
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, there was actually one. They did say that they would need some sort of like just validity of who I'm with and what I'm putting out.
Yeah.
But the it was probably the best response I got, and they were like, "Oh, we would, we've totally helped out indie local creators, and we would be more
Mhm.
than happy to help out. But unfortunately, I'm just the
Yeah.
guy behind the register. You'd have to talk to the boss." And I'm like, "Oh man."
Yeah.
That's where, like there's like 4 people that work at my local comic book store. I know all of them fairly well. I've probably paid for their rent several times over.
Yeah,
Um, and that's where I love it, because I can go in and I can say, "Hey, have you guys heard of this comic?" And they'll be like, "No." And I'm like, "Check it out. Maybe put it on the indie
yeah,
spotlight, you know, for a couple
Yeah.
weeks." And that's the good point about working with these guys, because the owner, he's kind of very hands off most of the
Mhm.
time. He's like, "I trust you guys and what you guys know." And so if they get a few people inquiring about a comic, or if I say, "Hey, check it out," and they like what they see, then yeah, they put it on the indie
Yeah.
spotlights.
that's
And I think more shops should do stuff
oh yeah,
like that.
100% agree.
So from Figure Fight Club, how you doing, guys? I'm doing great. Abby,
Hey, figure.
Abby is great. He check out his YouTube channel, Figure Fight Club, every I believe Monday, Friday, I think Tuesday as well. He'll correct me
Yeah.
in the chat. He'll probably correct me. Um, yeah, with the comic book shop that I went to, when I was telling him that my comic book would be coming out, he said, "I have a small section for indie comic things, but would you be willing to, autograph comic books for people if I put your comic
Mhm.
book in my store?" I was talking directly to the owner, and I said, "Absolutely, I would definitely come and not charge anybody. I would just do free autographs for each of the purchase
Mhm.
of the comic book." And he said when my comic book came out that he would take 100 copies because he already seen the artwork. He
Nice.
already seen the artwork. He was like, "Yeah, I would
Yeah.
do it in a second."
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
it's good that some comic book shops want to support the indie comics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now,
Especially the ones coming out of their own
yeah,
community
yeah,
yeah.
area.
exactly.
But I think Wise Acre Comics, it's fairly well known. I've seen them all over. So
Yeah, no, he's putting the name out there for sure.
I don't know why a comic
Yeah.
book company would not say, "Oh yeah, let me take Wise Acre Comics," and
Well, actually,
Yeah.
this all happened before I joined Wiseacre, which is actually one of the reasons, or if not the main reason, why I reached out and looked for publishers. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I had initially gone to this one local comic shop, and they were like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we don't really take any indie comics unless they're with a distributor." And so
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh well," and me not knowing any better, I'm like, "Oh well, how does one do that?" And they're like, "Well, typically with a publisher, like Image or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh well, of course I'm not going to be able to
Mhm.
get into any of
Mhm.
those."
Yeah.
And they were actually kind enough to actually provide me with some smaller, publishing
Hmm.
comic book companies, and
Yeah.
I reached out to all of them. I don't recall hearing back from Eddie, but so I'm hoping that now. Um, Maybe if I let them know, hey, I'm with this publishing company, we got some things, going, the ball's rolling here. Would you give me a shot
Hmm.
now?
Yeah. Yeah. Because being with a publisher does open a lot more
Yeah, I
doors.
would say, yeah.
Uh, I know that for from experience with various comics over the years, um, and you know, it wasn't. I think it was just after COVID. My local comic book shop started doing signings,
Okay, yeah.
and one was just from another town. It was like 2 hours over.
Mhm.
And he'd worked on like the Old Man Logan run and
Yeah.
everything. So I went in there, and he worked on Iron Fist. So I got several of his comics um, signed, as well as some of his indie stuff as well that he started on. And it's amazing how many people that work for like Marvel and DC started off with their own indie comics.
Yes. Yeah. I actually
And
had something to add. Sorry. The On the Kickstarter page, you'll see the third variant cover, cover C, was actually done by an artist who currently works with like Marvel, DC, Boom, Dynamite, Disney, all of those guys. And that one right below that one.
got it.
If you scroll, yeah, that one right there. And his the artist's name is Francesco Tomaselli. You can see it down there. And he reached out to me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I saw your page, I saw your comic. I'd like to do a cover for you. Would you like to move forward with that?" And I thought, this has to be a scam. There's no way that somebody who's worked with done covers for Spawn King or King Spawn, whatever, Superman, Green Lantern, I think DuckTales he's also worked on too. Things like that, and then coming to me, like, you have to assume that it's some sort of scam, but it was the real deal, and here's the proof right there.
Yeah, and that looks like an amazing cover.
So that's going to be the virgin cover out of all three of these. So I'm excited, and I think if I bring that cover to a comic book shop, they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, maybe we'll give you a shot now."
Yeah, well, I find it interesting how many creators, be it artists or writers, want to help people in the industry. That they're just establishing a name. It's like, hey, well, if I can help by lending my talent and my name to something.
Exactly.
My thing is, I reached out to a lot of people, and the first person I reached out to was Alex Sanchez. Alex Sanchez is well known, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
He's done Godzilla and Power Rangers. He also did his own version of Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
Which he went back to the old series and kind of retold a classic thing. But we also want to say, Stacy, my producer, Miko, so good to see you again. She is so happy that you're back here again.
Well,
she was begging me to bring you back, and I said I was going to bring you back, of course, because you were so enthusiastic. And then she says, "Hi, Chris and Dan." Well, appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Stacey. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I reached out. I have Frank Williams that does stuff for Marvel, and he does all my coloring for my comic books. And he took off a year because personal issues. But now that he's back, I'm so excited to work with him again. And he's done stuff like Scarlet Witch, Venom, coloring. So my advice to you is, don't be afraid to reach out to them on social media. They can either say yes or they can say no.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I'm not really looking for. I wasn't even really looking for a variant cover. It was just out of the blue, and I don't really know if I want to do that. I'm thinking maybe now I will, because of how cool and great this one looks, and maybe I'll do one variant cover by whether it be Francesco or some other more well-known artist to do a variant cover. But I'm pretty happy with my artist, my current artist. He's done work, and he's really improving too. That's the thing is, I almost wish we redid the entire comic because he's really improved. And so
Well, it's like any other skill, with practice you get better and better. And when it comes to reaching out to people, I view it the way my dad used to tell me about looking at jobs. It's like the worst they can say to you is no.
Yeah.
And I've reached out to so many artists that have made such a huge impact on me. The very first one that I did was David Fincher.
Okay. Yeah. He's really good. Love his stuff.
I absolutely adore his
Love
stuff.
his stuff.
His run on Moon Knight and Batman, like his art style is perfect for those
Yeah.
characters. Very dark and gritty. And I reached out to him and, just wanted to tell him how much that his run impacted me. Like, it's like, wow, when I look at these, like, they are almost like paintings to
Yeah.
me.
He's good. Did you actually see? I don't know if you saw. He's coming back with Robert Kirkman.
Ooh.
Yeah, I heard that, and I'm looking
Oh
forward to
yeah,
that because Kirkman writing
and
and
his
him on
yeah,
art,
that's one heck of a duo right there. Yeah. Oh man.
yeah. And like, and I know that David Fincher has had personal illnesses, like health issues and everything, over the past few years, and I think people kind of forget how much stress there is in creating a comic book.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's
Yes.
not just like, oh, a 9 to 5 job, oh, you're listening to music while you draw type thing. It's critiquing every page you draw,
Yeah.
and then like,
Yeah. Well, it's
okay, I gotta redo this entire page.
hmm and then they're submitting that to then the writer,
Yeah,
and then them taking a look, seeing if it makes sense or if it jives with with
yeah,
what they wrote for that panel description or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
And then maybe they have to go back and redo it
yeah.
to
So
add something.
there's a lot of stress in that, and
Yeah.
so I when I was a kid, I wanted to be a comic book artist. Once I hit my
That's
teens and I saw the behind the scenes of it, I was like, you know
yeah.
what? I'm good being a reader.
Yeah.
And and I enjoy writing, but not for that level. But I
Yeah.
am looking forward to Kirkman and Fincher on a run together,
Oh yeah. So
because I can promise you that's definitely already on my pull list.
yeah, I mean Robert Kirkman has done some great stuff.
Oh
I was
yeah,
just actually thinking about that recently. Like I'm like, a lot of people probably liked Robert Kirkman's stuff before they knew who he was.
yeah,
Like Walking Dead. How
hmm
long Walking Dead has been going on, like the show even and the comic series and how long ago, and then Invincible, how many people probably liked
oh
that before the animation started, and then we
yeah,
got the animation, and now more people are jumping on that hype train, and
oh
now
yeah,
he's coming out with a new thing, and I'm sure he's definitely taking advantage of the kind of
hmm
newcomers, and then Battle Beast, him returning for Battle Beast,
oh yeah,
and then now he's doing this new one, and I forget the name, but
yeah,
I saw the cover and it looked really good, and I think even Ryan Otley did a variant cover, and
yeah.
I thought this is great.
Yeah. I got into The Walking Dead fairly early because I've always
Mhm.
been kind of a zombie fan,
Yeah.
and didn't hurt that my fiance's father actually
Mhm.
worked at the printing place in Baltimore
Oh,
where they were printing these runs. So I have a few signed Walking Dead
that's
trade
awesome.
paperbacks by Robert
Yeah,
Kirkman, because he'd
that's
come
awesome.
in for like to just for random quality inspection,
Okay, yeah.
and nobody in her family is really big into horror or zombies or anything.
Yeah.
So her dad's like, "Do you want these?" I'm like, "They're signed by
Um,
Kirkman. How much do I owe you?"
yeah.
I just want to say that
Yeah.
Rusty Spoons has come in and she says, "Hey guys, how you
Yeah.
doing?"
Hey, Rusty
Yep,
Spoons, how's it
Hey,
going?
she
Hey, hey.
is a gaming on gamer on her YouTube, not
Yeah.
YouTube, but Twitch platform.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
James Lucas just
And
came
there's
in.
Marcus. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
James, how's it going?
It's, but I know people that have gotten into Invincible just
Mhm.
because of the animation. They're like, I didn't even know it was a comic beforehand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, read the comics. It's a lot different than the animation.
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness. I had been. The funny thing is I was like a fan of it before I really knew what it was.
Yeah.
And then when the animation came out, I was like, oh, this is that.
Yeah.
And of course, then you forget whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of just rely more on, like, for me at least, it was like I knew Static Shock more from the animation than I did
Yeah.
any of the comics back then, or
Yeah.
Batman or the Justice League, all from the animated shows.
Yeah.
But now I circled back and I thought, you know what? I actually started collecting the new edition trade paperbacks, so like smaller
yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
and I think I got up to 8,
Yeah.
and then I found the older ones, the original ones,
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sell these ones off. I'm gonna collect the originals.
Yeah.
And reading Invincible again, I'm like, wow, it is drastically different. I mean, they've kept most things the same, right? Some dialogue even too, but a lot of the things, and who knows what for? Maybe because of Amazon, maybe because of Image, who knows? But
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of changes in there, and
Yeah.
but I think it's still cool. Yeah,
Yeah. And same with The Walking Dead. It's so different than the comics.
yeah, yeah.
And my favorite was Robert Kirkman talking about writing for the show. And
Okay.
he actually told them to use him sparingly because his condition was if he wrote an episode, someone was dying.
Oh,
He said,
interesting.
that is my condition, is if I'm writing an episode, a character will die. He goes, and I feel bad about that because I'm basically telling a writer or an actor that they're fired.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
losing their job. Yeah, yeah.
But he's like, he wanted it to be a special event
Yeah.
where if he came in, it was going to be a big deal.
And Jay
Well, I think
Bartlett
that's-
just came in, the one in LA.
Jay,
Hey Jay, how's it
dudes,
going?
wow, getting late for him.
oh, I know. He was probably
Yeah.
supposed to be in bed by now, right?
Yeah, it's 9:30 his
Yeah.
time. He's got that GTA challenge tomorrow. He's playing all the GTA
Oh,
games
yes.
leading up to GTA 6.
Oh, the
Yeah.
6th one. Yeah.
I got a funny,
that's
well,
it.
not funny. My very first guest on Comic Book Spotlight, Doug Wagner, knew Robert Kirkman very well.
Mm.
And when he first started, Robert Kirkman said, I don't think this comic book's going to do well. And noticeably, no, he kept on going after Image daily and saying, take my comic book, take my comic book. And Doug said he was like very, very, very poor. Very poor. And as soon as, The Walking Dead took off in the comic books, he started building up his reputation. And of course, he made his money because of the television series. And I think people just are in love with horror. And I think he had a different take on it. What do you think, Dan?
I do. For the comics, I loved the fact that he kept them black and white.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
And you had the Romero feel to it, so you had that Night of the Living Dead feel while you were reading.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it was done so well, you never really saw the twists coming until you actually were there.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about comics is you
Yeah.
can think you see where the twist is going, and then suddenly it goes in a completely different direction. And it's like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with a lot of comics. When I started reading Preacher, I had no idea what to expect.
Oh,
I did not start expecting that.
yeah.
And the same with The Boys. My friend's like, oh, have you read this comic, The Boys? And I'm like, no, what is it? And he's like, just read this. And he handed me the trade paperback of the first 5 issues. And I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I was gonna,
Another one I got into too was Jupiter's
Ooh.
Legacy.
Mm.
The Netflix show didn't do too good.
Mm-mm.
Which, funny enough, I actually enjoyed it. I was a fan of the show.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
liked
the
it.
costumes were really cool too.
Mhm.
And so it just made me have to pick up the comic books. I got the trade paperbacks. I believe there's only 5 volumes of it,
Yeah.
and I have all 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I see a show that says, oh, well, it's based on this comic,
Yeah,
I have
I
to
definitely-
go out and pick it up
Yeah.
because
yeah,
I know that it's going to be so much different than the show because, of course,
Yeah,
the producers
exactly.
get their hands in it,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So
and
that's what I had to do with
some
mhm.
content's just not going to make it onto the
Yeah.
show.
In, Invincible, Jupiter's Legacy. Yeah, definitely.
And
Some changes
Wanted,
are actually for the better, I think. But yeah.
yeah. Wanted was another one. They were not going to touch
Oh
that one
man.
with a 10-foot pole in the comic book format. They're like, yeah, we're not
Yeah.
putting that into the movie theaters.
I actually have to pick up the comic because I've only seen the movie. I actually
Oh,
haven't
the
read the
comics,
comic, and I love the movie. So,
the comics are so different. It ends up with, super villains and parallel
interesting.
Earths. Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow,
So
wow,
very
wow.
different.
Okay, interesting.
just want to
Then
say
I definitely have
Yeah.
to read that.
to Average Gamer, hello all.
Hey,
Oh,
average.
hey, average.
We're
How's it
getting a
going?
lot of support from our friends here. I do have a question for you. Um, my
Yes.
question to you is now that you're going to finally get this started, printed out, and you're going to promote everything,
Mhm.
do you have any other ideas down the line for other comic books?
I do actually. I'm very happy you asked that. I think I can show you. This is not the final thing. In fact, it's been completely changed
Okay.
because it's a little too similar to another
Okay.
cover. But this is a
Okay.
potential cover for possible first issue. Where you at? Let's see if that pops up there.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Oh
Okay.
Yeah.
There
yeah.
we go.
I like
Very
it.
cool. Yeah.
I
Okay.
like it.
So that is a new character I'm working on, which is actually going to be within the Vibrant universe. Completely different story, though. Its own, plot line, its own
Mm,
characters. But there will be cameos. I do have cameos expected, or I'm going to be setting up cameos of characters from the main universe of Vibrant into this one,
nice.
but characters that make sense, right? Because
Yeah.
this one will be Vibrant. I would say is a lot more like Young Justice League style,
Mm.
where it starts to get pretty big. Still grounded, but more on the bigger level, where it's like
Hmm.
a whole team set up where they have supernatural abilities. This will be a lot more grounded. This character actually doesn't really have any real abilities. He shares an origin story to another character that's in the main universe, where he was experimented on with animal DNA, and as by the design, I'm sure you can assume correctly that it was a bat or bats, different bat
Very
species,
cool.
and so he'll have echolocation, sonar, heightened senses,
Nice.
things like that, and he's just really good at
Mm,
fighting. Um, and as you probably saw from the
hmm.
pose, that looks like a very similar cover. It is the character is kind of based off of Daredevil a bit.
Yeah.
Definitely, there's of course very different things and aspects to each character,
Hmm.
but the character is definitely inspired by Daredevil, and that's the character or the story I'm working on, and this one will be raw, unfiltered. There's going to be This one will have a personal touch as well, things that I've actually gone through in the real world.
Hmm.
Um, and it's going to be, I think it might be one of those ones where it shows the real fans you have,
Mm,
right? Because again,
yeah.
and when I say things that I've personally gone through, I look a certain
Yeah.
way, right? Um, and because of that, I've gone through things, unfortunately, that I don't think anybody should have
Hmm.
to go through. And this comic book here will 100% be um, floating around that, with,
Yeah.
of course, people who can fly, they shoot
Yeah. Of course.
lasers
Of
and all
course.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to start
I
this.
And
always love reading about reading comics with different points of view and experiences on what they've gone through life, because of course, me looking a certain way, certain things do not happen to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it reminds me of my cousin in her teens listening to hip hop, and she's talking about the man keeping us down. I'm like, We're Western European. Your side of the family's Swedish. My side of the family's Swedish, German, Scottish, Irish. We are
Yeah.
the man. We get any paler, we're Casper. And
I want
so it's always interesting for me to hear different experiences in life, because it's how we learn and
Yeah.
how we grow as people, understanding that
Exactly.
not everybody has that same experience going through life.
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
I also want to say, James Lucas says, congratulations on surpassing your goal.
Thank you very
That
much,
image you
James.
showed us briefly, it kind of has,
Mhm.
I guess I would say, more of a Japanese or Oriental feel to it.
It actually has no Japanese touch
No.
to it. I mean, it might be the art style that he maybe I'll show it again, that he did it in, but this is his style that he's
Mhm.
been.
Yeah.
I learned now that
It
I'll
it
put my finger.
definitely has a
Um,
feel of like a very street level hero.
yeah, that's
Okay.
Someone who's fighting in their own neighborhood to make their neighborhood safer.
Yeah. And I love the colors.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, the funny thing about this character that I have kind of set up is, despite his
Mhm.
outfit, he hates superheroes.
Ah,
So yeah, that's a fun little thing I wanted to throw in
yeah.
there, and there's a reason why he does, and he is more so an anti-hero than
Hmm.
a hero. He, if anything, he's just kind of doing things that he's trying to enact revenge on those who have wronged him.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And if somebody is on his side of that revenge, then it
Hmm.
benefits them. If somebody's on the opposite side, then it
Hmm.
doesn't.
I like
So
that. I like that.
yeah, I mean, of course,
That has a very real
um,
kind of Frank Castle type feel to it.
yeah, that was another aspect I wanted to put in, was like it being a bit more
Yeah.
real. Like sometimes we like to think that we are, or we would be, the
Yeah.
superhero, right? But if you've gone through some pretty crappy
Uh huh.
experiences, I don't think, and maybe not necessarily be the bad
No.
guy per se, but you definitely would not be the good guy, and you probably wouldn't even care
Yeah.
about
It
trying to help
it
with the
sounds
person.
like I've been reading my definitive edition of Watchmen, and
Ooh,
again,
okay,
one of my favorite titles. Um, yeah,
it's a good one.
and
Yeah.
definitely sounds like Rorschach in that circumstance.
Ooh, yes,
Like
nice.
you know,
I like that.
I'm on your side up to a point,
Yeah,
but at the end of
exactly.
the
Yeah.
day, it's about what I want, not what you
Yeah.
want or what
Mhm.
society wants.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
that idea.
Well, thank you.
I,
Yeah.
I have another question. My question
Yes.
is merchandise. Do you have any ideas for T-shirts?
I'm still working on that. I don't know if I want to get new art done for it or use, art that I
Right.
currently have. Um, because some of the art that I currently have, of course, I can workshop it to work for a
Yeah.
t-shirt. But I'm thinking like having maybe like vibrant on the shirt would be nice, or just having like maybe it being really simplistic and it's just like the V logo for vibrant on the side of the chest. And then maybe vibrant on the sleeve. I think that would be pretty cool. But I've been thinking of some things like that, or even like a
Yeah.
hat. I actually have this person I went to for work, for my previous employer, who we would go to for our merchandise for work, and they are actually really close to where I live now. I moved recently, and so they're really close. So I'm like, I was thinking like, maybe should I look online? Then I thought, oh wait, they're like down the
Mm.
street from me, and I used to use them for work. So why don't I just use them for my own
Mm.
personal thing? And so I reached out to them, and so I might be doing that a bit sooner than later, because I think it would be nice, especially if I'm going to be doing a
Yeah.
Comic Con. Like if I'm just wearing regular clothes, people are not going to
Yeah.
really. Yeah, I think it would be
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't garner as much attention, but if I'm wearing a cool hat, a cool
Yeah.
shirt, hoodie, whatever, with the
I'd
brand
certainly pick
name.
up some of the vibrant like posters and that. I'm a poster
Oh
junkie.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
posters that go all the way back to like the late 80s, early 90s. And a lot of them I just
Mhm.
got from my comic book store. They're like, "Yeah, we're throwing these out. Do you want them?" "Yeah, sure." And
Yeah,
and I'm one of those guys where if it's a really nice poster, I will frame it and everything, uh,
yeah.
because they are very much
That's
a
awesome.
piece of art. They're just like anything else.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I would definitely pick up some vibrant merch. Uh,
Oh well, awesome. I'm glad you say posters because I am actually already. Uh, Thank you again, James. Appreciate it. I am actually planning on doing some posters, and I can show you guys the art
Awesome.
too. Some of it is actually on the Kickstarter page, but I will show you some of the.
oh, nice.
So
Oh,
that's one.
Uh,
So turning these guys. Here's another.
these are
yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah, I would definitely snag those.
Here's
I
Oh
would
another.
yeah.
snag those in a heartbeat.
Oh, definitely.
Here's one more.
Oh yeah. You're giving me ideas for my own comic book.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
yeah, I love the art. I would
Another
pick
one. So
those
these I definitely will have as posters. Like there's no way I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
using these as posters. So
And I
Yeah,
think
that
those would
art
be
is amazing.
I think those would be good for the banners too for Comic Cons.
I was thinking that, but then I'm like, because then I have to pick and choose between characters, and they're pretty I was looking at one, and I'm like, I mean, it's not like gonna break the bank. It's maybe 150 plus.
Have you
Etsy
checked
shipping
on
costs.
Etsy? They have a whole lot of indie people over
I have
there.
not. No.
Yeah,
Oh, I have not. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I know that Etsy has a lot of indie
Yeah.
creators over there. I did not think about using it, Etsy, but I feel like now this is probably a bit hypocritical. At least for the
Mhm.
first run, I would probably like to go with something where I can kind of get a little cheaper. I
yeah,
know it's not going to be
Yeah.
as
yeah. Well, I mean,
uh,
I think we all understand as fans that when you're starting just starting out,
yeah,
every
exactly, yeah,
dime and
yeah,
every penny makes a lot of difference in that bottom line.
100%, yes,
And I've seen
100%.
that with a lot of people. I admit I've ordered from Etsy more than a few times. Um,
Oh, don't get me wrong. I've ordered from Etsy
yeah,
a whole bunch. Like I cosplay, and I feel like the only place I should be getting items from for cosplay, like if you want to
yeah,
really look more legit than just getting like a Party
yeah,
City costume, um, is definitely from Etsy. And I've ordered so many things from Etsy. It's like not even
yeah,
funny. Like I've cosplayed as like Batman, Robin,
yeah,
Daredevil, Moon Knight, things like that, and
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay,
Well, like
Etsy.
my fiance, she is huge into Thor ever since the first movie came out.
Oh,
So I
awesome.
actually got
That was
her
cool.
a pair of earrings that are Mjolnir,
That's
and
awesome.
and
I
that was
like
her
that.
Christmas present one year. I was like, you know what? She loves him so much. I'm gonna go with it. It makes it very easy, you know. And I found an
Yeah.
Etsy creator who did custom earrings. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And
And
I
yeah,
like that.
sorry, go. I didn't mean to
well,
go over you, Dan.
well, I was gonna say, especially since like at the time Marvel was not producing stuff like that, or if they were, it was prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think to this
It
day it
is.
still
It
is.
is. Yeah. Like I would
Yeah.
love to get some of what was it? There was the Black Panther necklace from the original movie, and I
Oh yeah,
loved
yeah.
that because I am a huge Black Panther
Yeah.
fan going back to the 80s.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I look at the
Awesome. That's
price and
awesome.
I'm like, I want to buy the necklace, not stock in the company.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, how does your wife handling your new fame?
um uh, well, thank you for the
Yes.
compliment. Although life hasn't really changed. There's not much. I mean, it's cool to give her updates. Like I'll be on my phone scrolling, and I'm like, oh, I got a new follower. Oh, I got a couple of followers. Oh, I got a comment on there that complimented the post I just put up or whatever. And she's very supportive. I one thing I'm grateful about her is she's extremely supportive. And she helps out too. She's like, in fact, the trading cards that we have for that, she's the one who put together the design for those cards for me, as well as try to make it all look good. I had actually posted and started trying to do it myself, and she was like, nah, like if you want people to really be like, okay, that's something I'll buy, then I think I should probably take it from here. And I'm like, all right, sure, no
So
problem.
does that
And
mean
then,
she'll be
all
going
right.
to the conventions with you?
Yeah, actually, I told her I was there's one local con that's bigger, and it would have 2 seats, and she was like, oh yeah, I'd totally be there. Like I'd allow you to walk around, whatever, get your merchandise from other creators and whatnot, and I'll handle the table for a little bit while you go and do that. And yeah, so she's incredibly
Nice.
supportive.
I think that's what a lot of people kind of forget about these conventions is it's also places where talent can network, where you can
Yes,
get to
yeah,
know each other. You can kind of, oh, hey, I've read your book. That's really cool. I really enjoyed it. And, oh, I've seen your artwork, really enjoy it. And it's always fun to see stuff like that at conventions.
Oh yeah,
Because, who knows? You may collaborate on a title you never expected to.
it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping one day when my comic book comes out, fairly soon. I'm almost done. I keep on saying it, but I would love to work with Doug Wagner.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to work with Alex Sanchez
Yeah.
if I get the opportunity.
It's all about, not just the opportunities, but getting the schedules to kind of mesh, which I know in any industry is really tough.
Yeah.
Because, you may have this great idea and this other person wants to work on it, but they're currently working on another title. And it's like, well, I kind of have to give all my attention to this title at this point. So, sometimes you have to back burner it.
Yeah. And I was trying to say before, I didn't want to disrespect your illustrator. I'm just saying that it's
No.
when you find somebody new, and
Yeah.
I have a guy that I use all the time, and even though I talk about Alex Sanchez and everybody else, he does phenomenal work, and he's out of Italy, and I would never ever let him go because he not only does he does work for me, he does stuff for indie comics in Italy, and he keeps on sending me drawings of stuff that's been published in other people's comic books, and I'm like, that looks really really good. So
Yeah. No. I mean, I take no respect, and I doubt that he would either. I like you would not let my artists go, and I think one of the reasons is, if it, well, 2 reasons. One, I consider myself to be a very loyal person, and I feel like if you've helped me eat, right, then I will definitely be there to help make sure you eat, sort of thing. And 2, I mean, if it weren't for him, I don't think I'd really be anywhere, because I could have probably looked for, especially the way he's been able to work with me. He's worked with me and that the way in a way that I don't think any other artist would, to where I don't think I would have been able to release anything. And it would have broken the bank for sure if I would have gone with other artists or whatever. And he's willing to work with me, and he does great work. It's not like, we work the way we work together, and he's like, I'm going to give you whatever, right, for whatever. He's like, I'm going to give you the best. And it's been great. I mean, sometimes I'll like, not really, but jokingly, I'll get like jealous with him, and I'll see him post like things he's done for other comic books after the fact, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm like, man, I hope I'm not losing you.
Yeah.
I'm like, hope you don't forget me when you blow up
Yeah.
big, you know. And he's like, oh man,
And
and
I
I feel the
I
same
think
way.
that's what a lot of people also forget is the relationship between the writer and the artist. It's very vital
Yes.
because
Oh my
you can have
goodness.
the most amazing writer and the most amazing artist, but if they don't kind of see eye to eye,
Yeah.
it's it's not going to
Yeah.
translate that to the page.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you have
Yeah.
to have them on that same page. Kind of okay. This is what I
Yeah.
see. What do you kind of
hmm
see?
Exactly. And with that, like it, it's created this trust
Hmm.
with amongst the two of us, and to where like I can probably feel, unless I want it to be a very detailed page, or be very detailed and have something in the background that really sticks out. I can kind of give him a very brief, broad
Hmm.
description on that panel, and I know he'll take care of it.
Nice.
Or the panel's layout of the
Mhm.
page. I put full trust into him
Oh
when it
That's
yeah.
comes to
another
that,
thing people
because the
forget
way
about
he's done it
is
very
the
well.
page layouts are such a huge thing.
Oh my goodness, yes. Because you can either have a very busy page,
Hmm.
Mhm.
or you can have an extremely bland
Hmm.
page. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to like crap on anybody, but I've seen some comic books where the art might look good, or the characters might look good, but the
Just
background just looks
yeah.
boring, or like the panels are just like, you know, uh, kind of a tangent, but not really. I'll be using this as an example to kind of further my point. I was at
Hmm.
Barnes and Nobles
Mhm.
yesterday, and I like to go to the craft and hobby section after I visited the comic
Mhm.
book section, and I like to see maybe are there art books that I can take so I can maybe do it in my own free
Mhm.
Hmm.
time. And I found one where it was just like a uh, full book of comic panels, where it was basically the whole panel with the speech bubbles done for you, and all you have to do is just fill in the dialogue
Oh
and
yeah. I
the art.
remember.
I'm thinking some of these creators, the layouts look exactly like that, and those layouts look pretty
Hmm.
bland, like look like they look basic. And but with my artist, he's really creative, and I'll ask him while I'm in the middle of writing my script, like, hey, take a look at this, what do you think, so that he can already get that idea started and going, because I know once he gets it on
Yeah.
paper,
Mhm.
right, it's, oh my
I
goodness, it's gonna look
love
good.
looking at pages where I can read it 3 or 4 times and I'm always seeing new little details.
Mhm.
And I
Yes, yeah.
want that because that draws me in as a reader.
Yeah.
That's where
hmm
it's like it doesn't feel
exactly.
like a page; it's just another page to me.
Yeah, it feels like you're immersed
Yeah.
in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I do want to say when I brought in the new guy, Parkman Newman, who is
Mhm.
also with Wiseacre
Hmm.
Publications. Uh, he
Yes.
was telling me, and I don't know if I'm giving away secrets, but you guys come together, uh, each of the people that have done comic books, and you kind of have like a group session, and you
Oh
kind
yeah.
of talk about his particular comic book and what he could have improved on it when it was being developed. Um,
Hmm.
I find
Mhm.
that very interesting in a publishing company that they actually have like a whole bunch of writers and a whole bunch of uh, illustrators and creators and editors come and do this kind of a roundtable kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have a private chat, right? I don't know if I'm even giving up more than I should, right? But we have our own kind of private chat that where we all talk amongst ourselves, and we all really collab. Like,
Hmm.
we're sharing, people share pages, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" Or people share art, and they're like, "Do you think this one's better, or do you think
Yeah.
this one's better? Or do you like this color more, or that color more?" Sort of thing, or even like layouts, and or just to show off. And there's one book right now. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait until that thing comes out. Like, I want to try and be the first one to to back it and buy
Hmm.
it and everything. Um and it's just such a fun time, and it's also inspiring
Yeah.
as well, because you get to see. I personally think I am down here when it comes to being under
Mhm.
Wiseacre, published
Mhm.
under Wiseacre. all of these creators are like up here, and so I I get it inspired because it's like these guys are just such great
Mhm.
creators, and I feel like I have to work up to get to that point. And it's just such an awesome thing to be able to be a part of. Yeah, these creators are really good, and it's fun to collab. I enjoy it. I actually, I think it's needed because I'm not sure how other companies and whatever work, but I don't get the impression at least that they collab with each other. It's just like everybody's doing their own
Mhm.
story, and then maybe share an artist or two or whatever,
Mhm.
right? And then they just go on with their day. But with us, it's like it's genuinely a family. It
Mhm.
really is. Um, and I think Fred does a really good job
Yeah,
with that.
and I like collaborating with Fred because he's really helped my channel boom. And
Mm.
It's awesome.
I know I
Yeah,
have. He says he has one more person for me before
awesome.
I, move and everything. But I thought Parker Newman was great to talk. I think he was a little bit
Good.
unsure of himself when he came on his first podcast, but
Mhm.
I mean, hey,
yeah,
I still am. Right now, I'm like, I know for a fact I'm gonna feel after this, like, man, I think I either spoke too much, I didn't do a good job at really advertising my
I
comics,
feel
I
that
guess.
way after doing the show in any case.
no,
But one thing I love is seeing constructive criticism. Um,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
on the internet, we see a lot of criticism on a lot of subjects, and most of it's just, oh, this page sucks, and
yeah.
that's not going to help a person improve.
no,
Explain why
No,
you don't
no.
like something, or why you don't like the writing, or you don't like the artwork. Explain what it is
Yeah.
that doesn't fit to you.
yeah,
Um,
Hmm.
because, like, when I played sports growing up, I didn't mind criticism as long as it helped me improve as a player.
hmm
Yeah.
And it's the same with artistry. If you give me criticism on my writing or something, then tell me what you'd prefer in it, and maybe I can improve
Yeah.
on that in the
Yes.
future.
Yeah. I think it's a necessity for creatives and
Yeah.
just anybody who's in a creative space of their own. Um, I mean, I've had it where people are just like, yeah, this
Yeah.
sucks. And in fact, I kind of enjoy reading those kind of comments on like my social
Hmm.
media or my posts because most of the time you just want to be upset or
Yeah.
angry and be like, well,
Yeah.
screw you, right? I think for very very momentarily I'm affected by it, but then I'm able to easily move
Hmm.
on after really quickly, because I know after seeing a comment
Hmm.
like that, I'm like, this doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything, right? Like they're probably just being mad to be mad. If they really didn't like it and they're here commenting on it,
Yeah.
right, then they would give me something
yeah,
out of that. They wouldn't just be like, "Oh, this sucks." Like I've had one. This was actually a funny one, and I don't know if this is really like a just criticism. Well, I guess it is
hmm
criticism. This guy, I have a character in the comic who's in
hmm
issue one, and his superhero name is
Hmm.
Atlas, right? Like the Greek
Yeah.
mythology
yeah,
individual, and um, they were like, "Oh, DC already has Atlas."
Yeah.
Or something like that. They said something like that. And I'm like, okay. At first, I was like, but don't you get that it's a Greek? Like this is a person who other franchises and comic books and movies and whatnot have used the name. And then I'm like, wait, I think this guy has to be a troll because if they were really
Hmm.
genuinely interested in providing some sort of
Yeah.
something, they would have said, hey, me personally, I think maybe you could have gone with a different
Yeah.
name or something a bit more creative that isn't so out
Yeah.
there,
hmm
whatever, right? Um, and I would have actually accepted that. But that I know that they're being trolls. If
Yeah.
they're just like, yeah, this
Uh,
sucks. I'm like, oh, okay, you're
you voiced your opinion. I'm not gonna bite.
yeah,
right,
Like
yeah, exactly.
I remember in the '90s there was a comic book that they were doing a story of Norse mythology, and
Mhm.
somebody pointed out, oh, well, Thor's being done to death by Marvel. I'm like, but this isn't Marvel. It doesn't look
Yeah,
anything like
exactly.
the
Yeah,
Marvel character.
Mhm.
And,
yeah,
Marvel
yeah.
doesn't own the rights to all mythology.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes,
Different
exactly.
writers, different artists are going to have different takes on different characters that are common.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like look at
Yeah.
Marvel with Hercules and Ares. I guarantee you there are other versions of Ares and Hercules out there that don't look anything like Marvel's.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
just as valid.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
but
Say a good friend on YouTube has a daily kind of like video that he puts out, a little short, and he said,
Mhm.
"I'm jealous, and I'm going to tell you why I'm jealous." He goes, "I'm jealous of these other channels because I know they do such great content. That's why I'm jealous of them,
mhm,
because it makes me strive to be even better next time."
Mhm.
So
yeah,
it's not really criticizing them. It's
Mhm.
I'm just upset at myself that I could do better,
Okay.
mhm,
and
Yeah.
it's kind of appreciating to them that, hey, I'm jealous of what you put out there. And so if someone's going to make a bad comment, let them make a bad comment, because
Oh
you
yeah.
know what? It's getting you interest. Even a
Yeah.
yeah,
bad
it's getting you
comment.
Yeah.
engaged. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
if you look at YouTube, people are like, look, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down because at the end of the day, it's engagement
Yeah.
on that video.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same with social media. They're looking for that engagement and positive or negative comment. You left a comment.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Which is
So
actually
that,
funny. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Oh.
you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing is,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you engaged with my content.
Yep. And then it creates more engagement. In fact, that same comment that I mentioned, it created this debate. Like other
Hmm.
people were coming to my defense, and they were like, "Well, it's like Marvel has a
Yeah.
character named Atlas. It's like DC." And then other people are like, "Well, dude, it's a Greek mythology character. Nobody has the rights to that. Anybody can use that."
Yeah.
And it was just like it created this whole thread of like arguments on this one post that I made of the character. And I'm like, whoa, this thing. And now it's like a thousand or so likes. I'm like, wow, this thing blew up. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
These people really,
Well,
really
that's
bumped it.
that's the thing. You never know what will spark an interesting conversation
Yeah,
and
yeah,
where that
exactly.
conversation's going to go.
Exactly.
And I think, especially in comic books, it's an important conversation to have with
Mhm.
creators and everything. Is okay. Like it'd be different if it was like a line for line rip off of like Atlas or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Then that would make
you know,
total sense. Yeah.
yeah, that makes total sense. But having a new take, like even within Marvel and DC, I love new takes on classic characters.
Hmm.
Like everybody was freaking out when Miles Morales became Spider-Man. They're like, oh, 15-year-old,
Yeah,
and all this. I'm like, no, no, no. I want to see where they take this.
yeah.
I want to see what stories they generate with him that's going to be different than Peter Parker's.
Hmm. And they did some good stories with him.
They did amazing stories with him.
Yeah.
And same with people talking about, oh, Sam Wilson becoming Captain America. I'm like, okay, so it's a new guy taking up the mantle. It doesn't diminish any of the previous adventures.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
a
a
great point.
new take on a character.
Yeah.
Um, is why I love the multiverses because you get like Spider-Man Noir, where you get those pulp detective stories
Yeah.
where he feels like a cross between Spider-Man and Daredevil and Punisher.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, so I love stuff like that. And I love when discussions go there about, well, what's going to be different about it this time?
Yeah.
Um, how is this character different than this character? And, you know, and I think people forget about that. We become, at least, especially in the comic book world, we become such brand loyalists. in a lot
Yeah.
of cases. We see it especially like comic books, movies, and like video games. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this game's but what's the difference? Like, you can't enjoy both.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's definitely very much such
yeah,
a struggle, I think, nowadays. Like one thing for me, more in the movie realm, or I guess TV, same
yeah,
difference, but is Ironheart,
yeah,
Riri Williams, and that one. I mean, I think it kind of happened with Black Panther too, but
yeah,
in the comics, but with Riri Williams,
yeah,
Ironheart, the new
yeah,
MCU show, the Disney Plus show.
yeah,
Um, I was really upset at the ignorance and the just the hate from
yeah,
people because and you the funny thing that is too that like the hate comes from people who aren't even really a fan.
yeah,
Mhm.
Because one comment I saw and I don't it just bugged me. It really bugged me, and I don't care what your political side is, what view you
hmm
have, but if you're gonna call Ironheart the DEI of
hmm
Iron Man, you should get the heck out of here.
hmm
You might as well just yell out, I know nothing about comic books.
yeah.
Um,
I admit when Ironheart came out into the comics, I was like, okay, a character smarter than Stark. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. And I went in with kind of a chip on my shoulder and I
Mhm.
read a few issues and I'm like, you know what? Okay, not the same as Tony Stark,
Yes,
but
exactly. Yeah,
very interesting in their own right as a character.
exactly.
And, and I had that same issue like with Black Panther. I saw people saying, "Well, there's only one white person in the whole movie with the Black Panther." I'm like, "It's in Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
Know your audience." And
Yeah,
honestly, I loved that movie. That is one of
yeah.
my favorite Marvel movies
It was a really good
because
one.
they did such great things with it.
Yeah,
And, they even leaned into him being the token white guy. I loved that.
yeah. I
And,
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm um I I'm really excited about the Ironheart show.
I am too. I mean, that is the really again the arrogance, the ignorance, the hate,
Yeah.
surrounded by these things that have such potential,
Mhm.
you know, to be really good, and the fact that we're like this is why I'm actually coming out with the second story I'm coming up with that is also
Mhm.
a part of the same universe,
Mhm.
is because I think this is something that really needs to be like touched on, and
Yeah.
nowadays everybody's just hating, oh, you turn this character black, oh, you turn, the character. A lot of the times it's the dumbest thing to be complaining about, like when Little Mermaid, and I apologize if I'm getting political, but I feel like this really needs to
Mhm.
be spoken, and I'm gonna use this platform to do that, so I apologize.
Our
Sorry,
pleasure.
not sorry.
We it's trust me, we have political discussions all the time.
Well then, great. But when Little Mermaid got casted, the live
Mhm.
action movie got casted with I
Yeah.
forget what the actress's name, but she was casted as a black actress was casted to
Yeah.
play
Mhm.
Little Mermaid, and everybody was up in
Mhm.
arms. What was the real reason they were up in arms? If they really cared that, oh, some white redheaded
Yeah.
chick was was the Little
Yeah.
Mermaid, and we're changing it to this now, go watch that damn movie. That movie is for
Yeah.
Mhm.
you then,
Yeah.
right? Now this movie is for a new generation, for a new group of
Yeah.
people. And maybe Disney, this is my thing when it comes to Disney and showing representation. I personally feel like Disney isn't doing it the
No.
right way. I feel like Disney does it in a way to
Mhm.
push
Yeah.
something. And that's what
Mhm.
hurts
Yes.
us. That's what I feel. Because I mean, if you have movies like Sinners, I don't know if
I've
Yes.
you've
heard of
heard
it. Yeah.
or seen of this movie, such a good movie, and that really I think portrays that people that look
Mhm.
like me
Yeah.
Mhm.
exist. Very much so. And I think it's the dumbest thing to hear when somebody gets mad at a race swap, a gender
Yeah.
swap, whatever, as if those people don't exist. I get it. You might not like that. You might not live in that world, but those people exist. I exist. I'm clear as day.
Yeah.
I exist, right? And so, like, if a character that looked like me became the main character in James Bond, for example, right? If maybe
And
Idris
that has
Elba,
been spoken
who I
about.
think
Yeah.
exactly. If he played James Bond, I think that makes perfect sense because guess what? He's a black
Yes.
Englishman, right?
Yeah.
He exists. So why can't we show and represent that
yeah.
in these well-known mediums
And that
of
same thing
entertainment?
happened with Doctor Who. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people were up in arms. Like they don't exist. That's the sad part to me is we're getting pissed off about fictional characters, mind you, being race swapped, gender swapped, whatever. Away from when they were back when they were created, when it was just supposed to be all white, characters or Caucasian characters, into a generation where we are more exposed, we're more in the forefront, and we exist.
Yeah.
That's
And
all
I
I
mean,
gotta say.
like, for example, first off, like I posted in one of the groups on Facebook that I've since left because I just couldn't deal with the toxicity. I said, it's a mermaid. It's a character type that doesn't exist in reality.
Exactly.
One of the characters I would love to see them bring back was from the 70s in the Spider-Man series, and that was Rocket Racer, who was an African-American kid, teenager, who rode a rocket-powered skateboard, and he was a criminal, but he was doing it so that he could pay for like treatment for his brother. And eventually he goes on and he gets a degree through university and everything, and he becomes a huge character and a good guy, and eventually gets blackmailed again into doing these crimes.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there thinking, now, why can't we get a character like that brought into the MCU? Because I would love that. Because, of course, back in the 70s, if you rode a skateboard, you were automatically, you were a punk.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The time that these characters were created that we all know and love, that are all a certain color, right? Or certain whatever, were made during a time when there were certain I don't even know how to really put it into words. Just certain it was a different generation back then during that time, and there was
a certain a certain perception.
Yeah, exactly. That was then versus now. Like, there are jokes that were definitely said then that would not be the best thing to say now, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is we've grown, and I think there are a lot of people who are still stuck that, like, we can't grow. Like, we can't make Captain America being the mantle, not even the actual character, because his name is Steve Rogers, not Captain America. So we're being pissed because we're passing
a torch,
that shield off to somebody who's black. Like, get over it. It's ridiculous, and it's that. I will admit, like, here's one last bit of this that I will speak on. The Black Panther thing that just recently happened with, I think, T'Challa's son or whoever in the comics. Now, I'm not against that, right? I'm not against that. The only thing I am against is the fact that the people who were mad at Little Mermaid becoming black, Captain America being black, all of these other people being mad at Riri Williams or Ironheart for being a black show or a character, those people won. That is the only issue I have with that, because I'm more than willing to see this whole thing through. I mean, we got Captain America being like, "Hey, Hail Hydra." Everybody was all open arms about that, and then they ended up doing something completely different. Story maybe wasn't that great, in my opinion. But I mean, they did something, and they kind of went back on that
with Sam Wilson. There was one storyline that I really liked with it, and that was dealing with like racial profiling in a police force, and I really liked that because, of course, I've been stopped by the cops once in my life. Once.
Yeah.
Now, I know friends of mine who are, as one of my friends say, photo negative of me. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I get stopped at least once a month.
Mhm.
Wow.
In a lot of cases. Um,
Yeah.
but there was one MCU star that I really loved, Sima Liu, who played Shang-Chi. I
Yes.
absolutely loved him. And when he went to a convention and he said he is not going to be signing any of the 1970s um, Shang-Chi stuff because he found it
Okay.
racially offensive to him.
I mean, it. I feel like it was
It
supposed to be
was, it
back then
was.
almost.
But I love how he took a stand on it and said, "Look,
Yeah.
this I'm
Good.
not going to sign this because in a way if I sign that, that's a way of me promoting and endorsing that. And I'm not comfortable with
Yeah.
that." And I loved that.
Mhm.
I
Um,
think that's good. I think we all should have those
yeah.
boundaries set. Yeah.
And so one of my friends was like, "Can you believe he's saying he won't sign?" I'm like, "That's his right as an artist."
Yes.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah. It
I
is.
want to take a look over here,
Wonderful.
guys. Brought
Yeah.
up Rocket Racer right here
Yeah.
as Dan was talking about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So definitely,
And,
I
yeah.
think we need to bring back ethnicity back to comic books.
Well, I think we're doing that. I think it's just the way it's being
Yeah.
Yeah.
received, and that's what's really tough. Um, you know, I'll give, if you don't mind, I'm going to give
Sure.
a
Yeah.
personal experience to your audience. Actually, one that happened very recently. Right now, I'm on social media, and so I know a couple of things. The
Mhm.
lingo and the the trends and whatnot.
Yeah.
Some things, right? Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of the show The
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Boondocks, the
No.
old cartoon, right? I personally think it was a cartoon of black people for
Mhm.
black people, right? And there was some comedy in it and action and everything. And there's the one
Yeah.
character where I think it was supposed to very much be, and it was kind of like the comedic relief where he was black, but he did not like
Mhm.
black people. And so, he had his like little theme music where it's like the trumpet or whatever, and he's like, well,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if you've heard that
Oh,
meme or
yes.
seen that or whatever, but on the show, he was like, well. This happened to me, I kid you not, last week. I'm with my wife. I just sold a couple of things where I was like, I need to get rid of these things finally
Mhm.
once and for all. Packaged them up, went to
Mhm.
UPS, right, to go drop them off, and there's a bunch of kids with
Mhm.
their parents, like it's a whole family. I don't know if the parents were paying attention, but these kids were staring at me,
Mhm.
Mm.
right, where I looked back at them and I'm like, okay, right. I didn't say anything. Usually I
Yeah.
would, but my wife's like, maybe there's something up. So maybe don't try and
Mhm.
get all, you know, intense about it. But so I just kind of looked at them. I didn't really make a face. I was just
Mhm.
curious. Like, were they staring at me? What was going on? As soon as they walked past me, I heard them go, well.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
And that is a real
Yeah.
experience. Now, you might have the people who are like, oh, well, why did we turn Little Mermaid black? Who could argue that and be like, well, what if, this, that, and the other? Sure, I'm more than willing to be open and try and figure out what could they
Yeah.
be referencing, what maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
towards
Mhm.
me. But let's be
Yeah.
honest, that sure
Yeah.
as hell
Mhm.
was.
And I mean, there's so many characters that Marvel and DC and even Image could bring back and put a great spin on them that are already ethnic minorities. And
Hmm.
and Rocket Racer, like growing up, I took heat because I
That was a
was
real
I
character.
was a fan of Black Panther, and I'm growing up a white kid in the middle of a ranching town. And they're like, "Well, why do you like Black Panther?" Because he's a badass hero. And to me, that
Awesome.
was all that mattered. Was
Mhm.
I didn't see the
Hmm.
skin color or anything. I'm like, look, here's like
Yeah.
4 issues of Black Panther. Go read these and tell me it's not an awesome adventure.
Yeah.
And
Awesome. That's good.
and that's the thing. Like, people are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, well, you must like African American heroes more than." I'm like, "No, I like well-written heroes that have a
Yeah.
depth to them."
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So it's always
it's
interesting
sad that
to see. And when people
yeah.
start making it about race, I'm like, well,
Hmm.
that little outburst just told me all I need to know about you.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
I
and
can give
I would,
another. Go,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was
Again.
gonna
Sorry.
say, and I would love Idris Elba as James Bond.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great
Um,
choice. Oh, yeah.
I would absolutely go and see him in any James Bond movies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
such a good one. I think it would be
yeah.
the
I want to
best.
give another example of one that had a big problem with changing Green Lantern from Hal Jordan to Stewart
Hmm.
because he
Mhm.
was black. And the thing is, it needed a change because we went from Hal Jordan's story was basically at the end for the writer to tell,
Hmm.
and we needed a new Green Lantern. And
Yeah,
I just feel like people were up in uproar. Well, you can't change Green Lantern. Yes, you can. You certainly can. There
Yeah.
are many, many, many Green Lanterns. You know, there's alien Green Lanterns. There's
hmm,
different ethnicities and Green Lanterns. It doesn't matter. And I think what Marvel was trying to tell is there's a universe of differences of ethnicity and aliens and races that we should all come together as one big melting pot. Let's stop
yeah,
saying this person's black, this person's white, this person's Mexican.
yeah.
We are all of ethnicities and we need to stop putting labels on
Yeah.
things.
I
Mhm.
was lucky enough to go to Baltimore, where my fiance is from, and they had
Mhm.
Jeffy's Pop Culture Museum, which was the founder of Diamond Comics distribution. It's his hometown, and
Cool.
his comic book collection is there. Like I was 2 feet away from an Action
Wow.
Comics #1, Amazing Fantasy #16, and I'm sitting there,
Wow.
and they had a an exhibition shortly after Dwayne McDuffie passed away, and I always loved
Mhm.
Static Shock the cartoon. Um,
Oh yeah, such a
yeah,
good one. Yep. And that kind of inspired my comic too.
and
So
like,
I'm glad to hear
oh
you
yeah,
enjoyed that.
and I mean, Static Shock. Growing up in the '90s, I could relate to that. And I'm
Yeah.
going there, and they're showing all the stuff that Dwayne McDuffie has worked on, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, so many people would have an issue with these characters today because they don't
Yeah.
fit that, blue eyed, blonde haired. And I always found that funny because blue eyes and blonde hair is actually a genetic mutation in in humanity. They're not the majority outside of the Scandinavian countries. But I watched it, and I'm watching and I'm going through all this stuff that Dwayne McDuffie's done. And I'm like, I remember that hero. I remember his run on this comic. I remember this. And he was always fun for me. And the cartoons of Static
Mhm.
Shock were just fun. Again,
Oh yeah, actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I loved
yeah.
it.
Static Shock is
And
good. Yeah,
you had his
love
buddy
Static Shock.
there, and they actually touched on racism with his friend's dad.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought, you know what, that's something I hear a lot online, like, oh, America isn't racist and that. And I'm like, well, that depends on which side you're falling on.
Yeah, where you
Yeah,
or who
exactly.
you
Like,
are. Exactly. I mean, I just had that
yeah,
happen to me last week. So,
it,
yeah.
it reminds me of like my old elementary school where they used to say, oh, well, we have zero tolerance towards bullying. No, no, no. You have a zero knowledge of bullying. There's a very big difference between tolerance and knowledge. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's
I love
very true.
comics
Yeah.
and
That's good.
heroes and characters
That's really good.
that touch on real issues.
Mhm.
And it's like, look, yeah, you're a white guy living in the middle of a ranching town. You're not going to experience racism. But, I've got friends that are from African descent, and they're like, oh, it's a very different experience for us. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
And so I'll ask them, like, how does your experience differ from me? And we're not going in judging each other or trying to compare. It's
Hmm.
just sharing our own
No, yeah,
experiences so that we can
yeah.
better grasp both points of view.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it feels like a lot of them don't, at least a certain part of comic book culture. It's like, well, if this person doesn't look like me, I don't want to hear their story.
Yeah. Uh
Yeah.
huh.
And
Yes.
I'm
That's
very
true.
much of a different opinion on that. I'm like, as long as the story is well written, I'll read it. And
That's
I
true.
will be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, see that? I don't have that experience, but it's interesting to see that with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called empathy, people, and we should be trying to get more of it, not
Yeah.
less.
100%. Yeah.
So
Here's my question to you: if you got a chance to retell any DC Marvel superhero, who would you retell?
I know it's a tough question, isn't it? Yeah.
Really tough. Oh man, that especially maybe after our talk, I would probably say a character in that universe who has a lot of influence, like somebody like Captain
Hmm.
Mm.
America, somebody like Superman, um, heck, Flash. I mean, he has a whole museum.
Mm.
Uh, I think maybe Captain
Okay.
America.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably the reason why I would do that is I don't think I would like immediately make Captain America like I'd keep it Steve
Hmm.
Hmm.
Rogers, but I would have Steve Rogers use his and I know he's supposed to be like, the one for truth, justice, and the American
Hmm.
dream, but I think I would probably push that a little bit more to where it would help readers
Hmm.
nowadays be able to easily consume whether there's a race swap, a gender
Hmm.
swap, or whatever, because they've already read that back in the day and they're like now accustomed to it, if not
Hmm.
wanting it. And so I would probably say someone like Captain America. Yeah, I think maybe I'd rewrite Captain
Okay.
America.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have to getting back to kind of the political side. I love that I've seen so many DC fans come out against like immigrants and everything, and they're wearing a Superman T-shirt, and I'm sitting there going, "Really? You don't get the irony of this one, and even a little guy."
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, there's actually a great clip from the Smallville show about
yeah.
immigration, and I think it's a great representation of who Superman is and how he would
Hmm.
handle this issue. Um, yeah, I think it's sad that we have comic book lovers or fans that read
Hmm.
these books and are either just missing the point completely or just choosing to neglect that aspect of the story
Yeah.
or that point. Um, because if they're fans of this, but then complete like spewing that,
Yeah.
it really proves that you are not like
Yeah.
X-Men. X-Men's a great
Hmm.
example. But you have people who are fans of X-Men hating
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, heck, there were people who were fans of X-Men hating on the X-Men 97
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
even though it's the perfect place to put all of
Yeah.
that stuff because that's what X-Men is. That was the point of X-Men.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
I don't know.
I,
It just
I
baffles
always
me.
found it funny because, everybody assumes that, okay, you go into the X-Men and let's assume you've gone through stuff that everybody's gone through, like in this world. And you honestly think you're going to side with the X-Men? And I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you'd be siding with Magneto. After having going through some of this.
Exactly.
And as for Smallville, I absolutely loved that show because it was done so well.
Yeah, such
and
a fun
not just
show.
because I live 4 hours away from where they filmed it. I
Awesome.
live in
That's
British Columbia,
really cool.
Canada, so we get a lot of TV shows filmed up here, like Supernatural,
Oh,
and and I love the fact that we see so many differing productions. Like the most recent Power Rangers movie was actually filmed in downtown Kamloops, where I live, and
wow.
and it was really cool. And they put in a Krispy Kreme where there isn't one because we don't have one in Kamloops. They took a normal coffee shop and just basically plastered CGI Krispy Kreme signs on it and everything. But it was really cool because we got to see like the old Power Rangers crew there in a lot of them.
Yeah.
And one of my friends was like, "Why are all these like 30 and 40-year-olds?" I'm like, "Because growing up, these were our heroes."
That's where they.
If they'd been filming Batman, trust me, there'd be everybody out there. But Smallville definitely dealt with, again, more things like dealing with the fact that these outsiders were getting the powers. And it's like, oh, well, they're not going to be the heroes because you guys have basically bullied them their whole lives. So
I think that's what's sad too is when shows and movies. Sorry, real quickly, is when shows and movies like that try and teach people these messages that like you may not be experiencing this, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I think it's sad that there are people out there who would think that is somebody trying to push it down their throat. Because they're just so like they have such a force field around them that they don't give a damn about that stuff, that they think that just being taught in the most like subtle of ways, I think they consider being shoved down their throat, despite again these people existing, this being a real situation, even nowadays being a real thing that's happening. And art imitates
life.
Art is an imitation of life.
And it's not like, trying to push it down your throat. It's just telling you that these experiences do exist. And
they happen.
You may not experience them, but this is what they really are. So I really love movies and TV shows that touch on that because it gives me a new point of view to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Even for me. I mean, my wife and I, we were talking about, so things going on in the real world and again, me looking the way I am, I've experienced things, right? And so she was telling me she really got me. I was like, it's not that I don't care. It's just, it's not affecting me. And I don't know what I can do. And she goes, well, do you think it exists? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, just because you don't see that it exists and you know that it does that mean you shouldn't be doing anything? And then that got me thinking, because there are people like friends, family, whatever, whoever, who I've told of experiences, right, that I've had, who didn't care. And they're like, oh, well, because it doesn't affect me, maybe I shouldn't have to do anything. But that pissed me off. And I'm like, but I'm experiencing it. So then my wife, like, not really threw it in my face, but she really kind of flipped the script on me. And she's like, that's why you should be caring even more, is for that very same thing. If you feel that way when nobody's caring what you're going through, imagine what these people are going through and how they're feeling. And so I'm like that. And so it's really opened my eyes up a lot more to, a bunch of things like that. And yeah, again, especially with what happened last week, it wasn't as bad as other things that I've experienced. Like I was a kid one time, and my sister and I, we looked the same mother and father. We looked the same, right? And we were once kids. I was probably, I don't know, 12. She was 6. And there was some random guy, white, Caucasian, whatever you want to call him, who was yelling, "I effing hate N-words, and I wish I could kill each and every one of them." I kid you not, this actually happened. And it's like the fact that like people think that doesn't
Yeah.
happen is just insane
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
No, it's interesting to hear different points of view, because in my mind, my dad always taught me that's how you grow as a person.
Mhm.
You expand your point of view, so you don't have that same point of view all the time. I don't have the same point of view I had
Yeah.
a month ago. I don't have the same point of view I had when I
Yeah.
was 12, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it seems like some people just aren't willing to kind of go with that and realize that, hey, having a different point of view, it's not having it shoved down your throat. It's just trying to open your eyes to a larger world,
Yeah.
that things
Mhm.
happen.
And to bring
Yeah.
it full circle, that's exactly why I'm writing
Yeah.
Vibrant, and this
Yeah.
new story.
And I'm excited to
is
read
to
that.
one of the
Yeah.
aspects of that is to do that. Yeah, I'm glad to hear.
I
that.
hate to end this great conversation with you guys and here with our chat.
Yeah.
But our writer has to get going.
As do I, because I get up early for work. Unfortunately, it's Monday, so I'm not sure what chaos is going to ensue, but I'm sure there will be chaos. But it was a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes.
Always happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me on again. Thank you so much.
And when the
Thank you.
new project kicks off, let us know. We'll happily have you back
Oh, yeah.
on, and we'll definitely get more and more people interested in the new project as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely
All
excited for it. Yeah.
So we're off with that.
Yeah.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, my co-host, Den of Geek. Thank
Always
you,
happy to be here.
Emeka. It's great. Go out, support indie comics. We're out.
All right. Have a good one.
Fingers, dreams ignite. Heroes born in the neon light. Through the panels, legends grow. Where the ink tells stories bold. Comic book spotlight, shining bright. Creators' dreams take flight each night. From Cape Crusades to cosmic.
Yeah.